It began as whispers, the kind no one pays attention to, until they erupt into something far more dangerous. Prince Harry thought he had escaped the palace, escaped the pressure, escaped the legacy that both defined and suffocated him. But the real implosion wasn't going to come from London. It was coming from Hollywood, from the man who once saved him. When Tyler Perry, the guardian angel of their freedom flight, suddenly goes silent and then speaks, the world stops. What he reveals shatters everything. Alliances, narratives, reputations. This isn't gossip. This is the moment Harry's world collapses in real time. Hit the bell icon, like, share, and subscribe for latest updates. It started quietly, almost imperceptibly. A text left unanswered, a subtle glance that lingered too long, a phone call that never came. Small fissures that no one outside the inner circle noticed. Rumors began circulating in Hollywood, whispers about tensions between Prince Harry, Meghan, and Tyler Perry, but no one wanted to believe the cracks could run this deep. Sources close to Perry describe a growing unease, a discomfort that was initially masked by his legendary patience and loyalty. For months, he had been their protector, their refuge, the American brother Harry once swore he could never repay. Yet each request, each demand, each subtle manipulation of his Hollywood connections added weight, like water steadily filling a fragile glass. By the time insiders began talking, it was clear something was brewing. A sense of quiet alarm rippling through studios, agents, and even palace observers who monitored Hollywood's role in the Sussex saga. No one could have predicted the scale of what was about to happen, but everyone sensed the tension. It was palpable, almost visible in Perry's carefully measured expressions, in the way Harry avoided eye contact, and Meghan's subtle but increasingly commanding presence. The calm before the storm had ended. The bomb was ticking, and Hollywood could already hear it in the silence. The night at Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta began with all the appearances of civility. Polite laughter, carefully chosen words, and a warm handshake greeted guests. Harry and Meghan arrived as the celebrities they had become, relying on Perry's hospitality and his influence in Hollywood to smooth over the edges of their self-fashioned freedom. But beneath the surface, the atmosphere was already charged. Perry, a man known for discretion, patience, and loyalty, had reached his limit. Each subtle jab, each request for intervention, and every moment of public posturing felt like a personal affront to the man who had once thrown open his doors without hesitation. As dinner progressed, polite conversation gave way to tension that could be sliced through the air, a simmering heat that grew with every passing minute. Sources say Harry leaned too heavily on Perry's connections, expecting doors to open automatically, while Meghan's strategic charm veiled a sharper insistence that the couple's Hollywood image be protected at all costs. By dessert, cracks in their bond were impossible to ignore. Insiders described the night as a turning point, the first clear sign that the friendship, once glittering and seemingly unshakable, had begun to corrode. What began as cordiality ended in silent frustration, simmering anger, and the quiet acknowledgement that the dynamic had irreversibly shifted. Beneath the glossy surface of Hollywood hospitality lay a secret few outside Tyler Perry's inner circle knew. The estate was equipped with 24/7 security audio, microphones placed for safety and protection, never intended to capture anything scandalous. Yet, for reasons that remain unclear, these recordings were preserved far longer than usual, creating a trove of private moments that no one outside those walls was supposed to hear. Insiders claim the tapes contain conversations that contrast starkly with the carefully curated public personas of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. There are moments of mockery, raw frustration, and outright venom, where grievances and grudges spill over in ways that would shock even the most seasoned royal watchers. Meghan's voice, once celebrated for empathy and poise, is alleged to laugh at the very traditions she publicly claimed to respect, strategize ways to outsmart the palace, and issue comments that suggest a meticulous orchestration of narrative rather than spontaneous emotion. Harry, meanwhile, is said to vent in ways that reveal a simmering anger, disillusionment, and personal bitterness, contradicting the image of vulnerability that had fueled public sympathy for years. For Hollywood insiders and royal commentators alike, the recordings represent an unprecedented glimpse behind the curtain, a raw and unfiltered truth that threatens to undo carefully constructed images. The Sussex brand, once polished and untouchable, suddenly seemed fragile and the world could sense the storm gathering. It wasn't a single action but a cumulative fracture that set the stage for disaster. For months, Harry had subtly blamed Tyler Perry in interviews, referencing distance, coldness, or political caution in ways that, to the public, appeared innocuous but were cuttingly precise to Perry. Every carefully worded sentence, every hint of disappointment, chipped away at the loyalty of a man who had once risked reputation and resources to protect him. Sources say the breaking point came when Harry publicly suggested, however indirectly, that Perry had failed to support them fully, insinuating a lack of commitment that Perry found intolerable. Behind closed doors, that quiet affront exploded into fury, though Perry's fury was not the loud, performative anger the media thrives on. It was deliberate, controlled, and far more dangerous. Unlike public meltdowns, this silence carried weight, a pressure that could reshape careers and reputations without a single word broadcast. Friends close to Perry described the moment as the turning point, the instant the scales tipped. Where loyalty and trust once bound them, resentment and calculation took over. Harry had crossed the line, not realizing that the man he once called his American brother was quietly assembling the power to expose everything. The danger was no longer abstract. It was imminent, silent, and unstoppable. The moment whispers about the recording surfaced, Hollywood ignited. Within hours, hashtags like #TylerTapes and #HarryExposed trended worldwide, spreading like wildfire from Los Angeles to London, igniting curiosity, outrage, and speculation. PR teams scrambled, journalists dug for confirmation, and studio executives held emergency meetings, assessing the fallout that could obliterate deals and reputations. Once considered a glamorous emblem of modern royalty, the Sussex brand suddenly became radioactive, its allure tainted by whispers of hypocrisy, strategic manipulation, and private venom. Social media became a war zone, with every clip dissected frame by frame, every tone analyzed for hidden meaning. Perry's long silence only amplified the hysteria. Then came a single cryptic Instagram post. 7 words on a stark black background. Truth doesn't need a microphone, it just needs time. Fans interpreted it instantly, the message exploding across feeds and news cycles like a thunderclap, confirming suspicions without Perry having uttered a word publicly. Hollywood insiders watched in stunned fascination, understanding that the narrative was shifting irreversibly, that those once untouchable were now vulnerable, exposed, and powerless to control the story. Deals stalled, invitations vanished, and for the first time, the power that comes from image and influence was violently redistributed. The explosion was complete, quiet, devastating, and impossible to ignore. Back in Montecito, chaos reigned. Meghan allegedly screamed when she first glimpsed the headlines, frantically dialing Tyler Perry, leaving voicemails that alternated between icy composure and raw desperation. Sources say she stormed through their mansion like a tempest, accusing unseen forces, demanding lawyers, and insisting that her trust had been violated. Meanwhile, Harry clung to denial, telling friends Tyler would never do that, refusing to fully confront the reality already unfolding. But insiders describe the atmosphere as suffocating, a house once filled with strategy meetings and rehearsed narratives now vibrating with panic, tension, and dread. Hollywood perception, once firmly in their favor, shifted painfully fast. Allies who had smiled for the cameras and praised their brand quietly reconsidered associations, sending subtle signals of withdrawal. Invitations to events disappeared, collaborations were paused, and the Sussex image fractured, leaving the couple vulnerable for the first time since their royal exit. Harry's disbelief clashed with Meghan's fury, creating a rift that insiders insist was both emotional and strategic. As the storm of leaked recordings and whispers intensified, Meghan reportedly launched what insiders called Project Redemption, a high-stakes PR operation designed to regain control of the narrative. Her team flooded glossy magazines and influential outlets with sympathetic stories portraying her as betrayed, manipulated, and a victim of ungrateful allies. For a fleeting moment, it seemed the campaign might work, the public swallowing the crafted image of a wounded warrior navigating the treacherous waters of fame and scrutiny. Yet the fragile momentum crumbled almost immediately when more clips allegedly surfaced, snippets that painted a far more calculated picture. Insiders claim these new recordings revealed Meghan coaching Harry, instructing him on what to say, how to frame moments, and when to project sympathy, all choreographed with meticulous precision. The public, long conditioned to see her as authentic and compassionate, began to question whether her vulnerability was genuine or simply another act designed for optics. Hollywood observers and royal commentators alike noted the shift. The victim narrative that had once granted her widespread support now faltered under the weight of evidence suggesting strategy over sincerity. Even her closest allies were reportedly unsettled, forced to reevaluate their support. In a matter of days, the campaign intended to restore control instead exposed further cracks, turning the carefully built image into a subject of skepticism and ridicule. Meanwhile, Harry reportedly vanished from public life, retreating off-grid to reconnect with old army friends in the UK, seeking clarity away from the unrelenting cameras and the chaos consuming Montecito. Insiders describe a man weighed down, emotionally hollow, struggling to reconcile a reality that felt increasingly orchestrated and public scrutiny that became unbearable. Tension between him and Meghan escalated to what sources call the loudest fight of their marriage, a confrontation so explosive that Harry stormed out of the house for 2 full days, leaving silence and uncertainty in his wake. When he finally re-emerged for a charity event, the cameras captured a profound transformation. A hollow-eyed, exhausted man, stripped of the charm and sparkle that once defined him, walking through polite applause that meant nothing. Every gesture, every glance, revealed the emotional fracture behind the public facade. The world saw not the prince of Hollywood's imagination, but a human being confronting the collapse of the life he believed he had built. Friends and onlookers alike described him as distant, introspective, and visibly burdened by humiliation and exposure. The retreat, the argument, the solitude, all signaled a breaking point. Harry was no longer performing. He was grappling with the raw consequences of trust betrayed, loyalty tested, and a life that suddenly seemed far more precarious than any headlines could convey. The bombshell didn't drop quietly. Tyler Perry, sources say, handed a trusted journalist written testimony detailing what he had observed during Harry and Meghan's so-called refuge at his mansion. The claims were devastating. According to Perry, the couple didn't just seek healing, they performed, scripting every tear, coaching every confession, and orchestrating every dramatic moment for public consumption. What had once seemed like vulnerability was reframed as calculated strategy, a PR laboratory behind the idyllic facade. The response from Hollywood was immediate. Invitations to A-list events quietly vanished, brand collaborations were paused indefinitely, and executives who had once celebrated their glamour now kept them at arm's length. Deals that had once seemed unshakable suddenly looked precarious, with stakeholders wary of association with a couple whose private actions now contrasted sharply with their public image. Meghan's empire, carefully curated through lifestyle lines and high-profile projects, faltered under the scrutiny, launches delayed or quietly canceled as fear of backlash mounted. For Harry, the psychological toll was immense, compounding the collapse of his emotional equilibrium. The narrative had shifted entirely. They were no longer the protected, admired couple who had captivated audiences. They were exposed, vulnerable, and stripped of the illusion of control. Perry's testimony didn't just leak information. It rewrote the story of who they were, how they operated, and how the world would now perceive them. Hollywood for the first time looked on with clear-eyed caution. The Sussex brand and the marriage itself faced a future uncertain, precarious, and brutally exposed.